Welcome to a 2023 update with our City Administrator, Steve Volkert. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Sally.
We have been emailing back and forth and discussing, trying to get our quarterly interviews in and letting our general public know what's happening inside the city. And this year is proving to be very challenging for the city budget and trying to keep all numbers equal, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm holding in my hand just the percentage of increases across the board. And I'm sure our viewers have felt that at home as well.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the city budget challenges for 2023.
Yeah, well, you had a great point there. Just like at home, a lot of your operational, or we'll call your normal bills, have gone up, no matter if it's groceries, your gas prices, whatever it is. And the city is no exception. We just so happen to have it in much bigger, grandeur style. So a lot of the costs for the city, gasoline, a big deal,
Yes.
for us. We've got 3 squad cars, 24 hours a day running. I mean, it's not like when we go at home, turn it off and let it sit for 5 hours and then turn it back on. We have squad cars that are constantly running, from the ambulances and everything, other vehicles that we have that are constantly running. So gas prices this year in 2023, we had a budget about $52,000 more in gasoline prices. So that's a big chunk of change. Other things that, of course, that cost us more was when we're purchasing those vehicles. You talk to anybody, just like when you're at home, you talk to people who are buying cars right now. They're like, don't buy a new car because it's way, too expensive. Our new vehicles have gone up quite dramatically, if you can even get them, because of course, just like you, availability of those vehicles is very, very short. And ours are even more short because they're specialized.
Right.
We have our squad cars, squad trucks now. They're only building a few of them, and now that everybody's using the same type of thing and vehicles, it's very, very, very much so at a short supply. So much more difficult situation.
And moving on with that, some of the departments are going to be receiving some of their new equipment and then trying to incorporate that into a budget for maybe next year, because you're a year behind of the CIP.
Yeah, so if we budgeted, we always budget 5 years out, a 5-year budget. And so if we ordered cars, 2 squad cars in 2022, we might be looking at actually not getting those till 2024. So you're carrying that money over from the tax dollar figure in 2022. And then hope that we get it in 23, maybe probably 24. So it's quite a juggling act, and a lot of times when we're doing projects, maybe we're building improvement projects, and the price has come back dramatically higher because of supply chain issues. We've had to shuffle some things around and then maybe not do some things that we'd like to do. Some of the projects got put on hold now because we can't afford them.
And people in general public understanding a city budget really details a lot, and you have to stay in a competitive marketing with your employees as far as their wages go, or you're going to start to lose the workforce. So there's that delicate balance of trying to keep everybody on board and also trying to keep the budget where you have to be at. Your capital top limit there.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, by law, we have a limit as to how much we can raise in taxes, and it's based on only the growth of the community. Mm-hmm. So in reality, when people go, oh, you just decide what you want to buy and then just raise the taxes to pay. Right. No, we actually can't do that. That's illegal if you want to stay within levy limits and expenditure restraint. So we only had, in 2023, we could only get an additional levy of $369,000. Now people go, $369,000, but when your budget's $45 million, that's very little amount. Yep. I'll give you an example of $369,000 that we were able to capture from new growth in the community. In other words, new people came to the community. They now are paying taxes. That equated to $369,000 of new tax dollars. Not adding to the people who were already here, but again, brand new money. If just giving a 3% across the board raise in 2023 equated about $250,000, a little over $250,000. So that's pretty much most of the money that you're able to capture. Then you add in the $52,000 of additional gas, some additional cuts from the state
Right.
to the city, which were another $30,000 in cuts. So all in all, if you're almost just trying to break even and keep the same services you've given for a long period of time, for the rest of the next year. Luckily, we were able to also add two additional staff members. However, we would plan to do it in January. Now we have to hold off until July because we can't afford it. I know that shocks some people to say, "Oh, I can't afford it, so they don't do it." Oh, government just spends the money; they don't care. No, we literally can't afford it, so we don't do these things. So we were kind of forced into hiring two additional people because we were falling behind, and because of DNR and IPA, the federal DNR, so to speak. They kind of, in essence, forced us to get into more stormwater management. And so we're hiring an additional engineer just to do stormwater management.
Okay.
To get the permits to be able to discharge into lakes and streams.
Okay.
And of course, we discharge into the Rubicon River. So we're adding two additional people in the month of July, if we can find them, if we're able to be able to get applicants for those jobs. And but besides that, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's our luxury is adding additional staff to continue to do what people expect us to do.
And when the department heads in the discussion of the summary are possibly going to be retiring, does that process start right when they're sure that they're going to retire, or you give kind of a mentoring to the position being filled by the new person taking over?
That's a great question. By law, they of course don't have to.
Right.
They could walk out and say, "Guess what?
See ya.
Here's my keys.
Yeah.
I'm out." Right.
Right.
I've always asked our department heads, especially because you mentioned that, to give us 6 months' notice, so that way we've done this now, unfortunately, a couple times in the last couple of years because our department heads are aging out. That the fact is that we know it takes about 6 months to get some mentoring, to get about 2 months of learning the whole job in 2 months, which really isn't a lot of time.
No.
Especially since so many of our jobs are cyclical.
Right.
We do things in December that we won't do in July, and
Correct.
we do something in February that we don't do in August. So it really is learning by fire, and we hope that we've been able to do so with Park and Rec, with the retirement of Mike Herman after 38 and a half years last July. We just switched over wastewater treatment plant director,
Yep.
Dave Paquette, 17 years here at the city, over 40 years in the profession. He just retired, and we brought in his successor, Dan Dentiste, and luckily Dan has been with us for over 20 years, so he was ready to move up to the next position. But yeah, so 6 months we hope to get. So again,
Nice.
this transition is very smooth.
You had sent me some percentages that really weren't reflected in the CIP
Yeah.
for 2023. And let's just, a few of the bigger numbers that I'm looking at with what you sent me were the reconstruction of South Main, that's gone up 44%. That's a big chunk. And the same thing with North Wilson and Union, realignment. That's going to be 93% increase.
Yeah.
Those are some big numbers.
Yeah, it is big numbers, and everyone is seeing this in construction right now. No matter if you're constructing a home or you're constructing a road, some of the big things, as gasoline goes up, oil, of course, goes up. That drives gasoline costs. When oil goes up, of course, the roads are made out of oil, right? I mean, it's blacktop is base of oil. Even PVC pipe underneath the ground for your water mains, sewer mains, things like that. That has dramatically gone up 30 to 40% by itself. Now, again, we're talking about labor to do this stuff.
Right.
You're contracting with companies, and they've got to pay a little bit more to keep their employees. So we are expecting to see, when we bid these projects out, somewhere between 30 to 80% increases over what they were just a matter of 2 years ago. So luckily, our first bid that we did for North Main Street, you mentioned, or I'm sorry, South Main Street, you mentioned that one. That came back quite a bit less than what we expected.
Okay.
It came back to about $1 million project. Now, what does $1 million buy you? That would be the project of Lincoln Avenue, Lincoln, right alongside of Lincoln Elementary. And I'm sorry, it's Main Street next to Lincoln Elementary. So Main Street, that goes right past the pool and everything else, the driveway to the school. That just stretch of that block is $1 million to reconstruct the whole thing. So we're talking digging up the water main, the sewer main, the sidewalks, the terraces if they need be, the storm sewer, and everything else that goes with it. I mean, it's an expensive venture. It really is.
Right. And I think that our viewers need to understand, again, taking it home, yes, the construction costs have gone up if you're looking to do addition for your home, but it is triple-fold for big projects inside the city. So when do the decisions get made of, that's nowhere near our budget?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
What takes precedence?
Yeah.
Is there something that's been sitting out there for 5 years waiting? How do those decisions get made and voted on?
Yeah, so when we put together the CIP budget, which is in June and July of the year, we, again, forecast out what the costs are going to be for the next 5 years, which, of course, is very difficult to do. You have no idea what's about to happen in a year, much less 5 years. But you do the best you possibly can. You put some additions into certain costs and things like that. But then when we look at that and decide, again, which of these projects have the greatest need, for instance, if you're doing street projects, the street that has the most amount of issues underground along with above ground. So a street can have a lot of cracks in it, but there's nothing underneath it. There's no water or sewer main that's cracking, or that road might be pushed off for a little while. But those are based on what's called a PASER rating. PASER is an acronym, but it basically is the quality of the road.
Okay.
But then we also look at how many utilities underneath it are showing signs. So water main breaks and things like that, infiltration of sewer. Those are all things that we look at, and then we take all those parameters, we put that into a matrix, and then we categorize it based on the greatest need. So then when we do the budgets, we look at, okay, what is the total budget going to be for the highest priority needs? And we know what kind of our threshold of pain is, we'll call it that, of borrowing. And then we contact the council, we go before the council, we ask their viewpoint of what the threshold of pain is for borrowing. We borrow, by the way, every 2 years, so every even year, 22, 24, 26, for the next 2 years. And if they're okay with that threshold of pain of borrowing, then we go ahead and do it. But then when we go out for bids for the projects, if we find that the bids come back way higher, like you talked about, than what we expected them to be, then we have to go back to the council and say, okay, do we want to hold off on this now because it's way more than we have? We've been fortunate enough to be able to use some of the ARPA funds, which everyone's been talking about.
Yes.
What are you doing with your ARPA funds? ARPA funds is that federal grant that the city got, $1.6 million over 2 years, to do what was then considered as being revenue reimbursement, or considered to be lost revenue reimbursement. It is assumed that everybody lost revenue over a period of time during COVID, and so this is supposed to reimburse that. But you can use that money for whatever. So we looked at using it on projects that, again, were coming in over budget of what we originally planned. So, yeah.
And I would like to just touch base on this, but I'm going to have you back in April. But there's 2 elections that are coming up in District 2 and 3 for alderpersons.
Yeah, so in District 1, we have Jeff Turchi, who's an incumbent. He's running unopposed. In District 2, we have the incumbent, Dennis Hagee, who has been an alderperson here for over 30 years, which is phenomenal. You rarely ever see some more than 3 or 6 years, but 30 years. That's a great commitment. He's stepping down, and we have 2 residents who in District 2 that are running. And then in District 3, the incumbent, Kyle Sikora, who has served us for, I believe it's just 3 years now. He is stepping down, and again, we'll have 2 candidates for that from District 3. So we're happy to have challenges. It's not always easy when you just have people rolling over or even people not running and having an empty seat. There's a process you go through to fill that seat, but we're glad to see people are interested in serving. And it is a service. It's not. It doesn't make anybody rich at $4,000 a year.
Right. Right. If any of our viewers would have questions about the budget, they can go online to the city website and take a look at the budget and your budget summary. Are they able to contact you if they would have questions? Would they email you? Would they talk to your personnel analyst? How would that go about?
Yeah, they can call me. I'm trying to remember our phone number here.
262-670.
262-670. No, 67.
Is it 3?
673.
Okay.
8204. 673-8204. It takes me a while to remember how to call myself.
That's all right. Some of them are 0 inside the city.
They are. Yep.
And so that's why I said that. I wasn't sure if you had switched over. But
so
if they would have questions, then
call us and ask us. We have gone on the road and talked to different organizations from Rotary to Chamber to BID to anybody else who wants to know more about the Lions Club. We've been out and talked to them about what is their taxes getting this year. What's going to be different for them this year. We're glad to do so. This is your money. This is your budget.
I think it's important to get accurate information, and that's why I brought up the point and the availability for the citizens to get a hold of someone in these departments and get the correct information.
Yeah.
I think that's important. So it's nice that you're available to do that.
And you can email me also. It's SVOLKERT, Volkert at hartford.wi.gov. Feel free to email me, text me, call me, whatever you'd like to do. Ask any questions about our budget at all. And not only now, but also June, July, August, September, when we start the next budget cycle. It is a lot of decisions being made on what's most important, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure we are delivering the services that the people of Hartford want.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to our update in April, so thank you for coming in, Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And to our viewers, as always, thank you for watching.